Good evening and welcome to the One and All webinar series. One and All is a spiritual hub that connects higher-minded people through live interactions and online formats. It serves as a gathering place to pursue personal and spiritual growth through a deepening awareness of the one in all of us and the remembering of life's true purpose. Our mission is to know ourselves profoundly as the image and likeness of our Creator. One and All is an associate program that embraces wisdom teachings and practices from both ancient mystery traditions and contemporary spiritual guides. Our charge is the universal connection that will evoke humanity's evolution. Our inaugural speaker is the esteemed Dr. Caroline Izis-Fuqua, presenting her groundbreaking work, Mastering the Game of Life, Part 1, Learn the Game. And now, without further ado, it gives me great pleasure to welcome Dr. Caroline.
Life is a game. It's the sweetest, most intelligent game you'll ever play. And as with any game, we have to play by the rules. It's the only game you will ever play where losing is not an option. If you're ready, let's learn the game. Anyone who has spent any amount of time with me knows how much I love, appreciate, and respect the brilliance of this magnificent game we are playing. Life. From Go Alpha to Go Omega, each move has been carefully and ingeniously thought out and crafted so that only winning is possible. And the simple objective of the game of life is our self-realization, or much like rays from the sun, knowing ourselves as a stream of the divine. The object of the game is for each player to move from Alpha to Omega as quickly as possible, arriving back in the pure, unlimited I Am consciousness of God. In the game of life, the rules are known as laws or principles that must be learned and applied. And while playing, you must be prepared to be uncomfortably lawful. There are 7 universal laws that come into play in this game, and if you're ready, we are going to learn them. Number 1, the granddaddy of all others, the law of mentalism. 2, the law of correspondence. 3, the law of consequences. 4, vibration. 5, polarity. 6, rhythm. And 7, gender. Now these universal laws come to us from the annals of ancient Egypt, given to us by the Lord of Wisdom himself, taught. They are the foundation upon which universes are created and sustained. Mentalism. Remember, in this game all is mind, and thought, the most powerful force in the universe, is the fuel of the mind. Every thought is a seed that produces a fruit. That's why the Bible in Matthew 7:15 teaches us to know the tree, thought, by the fruit it bears. Results. You wonder how you end up with what you end up with. Everything is mind. You are the thinker. And every thought that you've ever had is a seed that produces after its own kind. You're standing in the middle of a garden, and every single growing thing in that garden is a result of a thought or a seed that you yourself have planted. Everybody has a philosophy that is the sum total of all of your thoughts, your beliefs. You have a belief or a thought about money. You have a belief or a thought about health. You have a belief or a thought about career or creativity. You have a thought about everything. And your primary thought equals your philosophy. You have as much money as you believe that you can have or that you think that you can have. The quality of your health is the equivalent of what you think about sickness, what you think about wellness, your relationships, what you think about men, what you think about women, what you think about marriage, what you think about relationships in general, are all outpictured in your experience, in your reality. Everything that you think is manifested as a thing. All is mental, all is thought, and you in your life are the only thinker that can create your experience. If you don't like what you have, change your thought, because your thought currently is outpicturing your circumstances. Look at your circumstances. If you're unhappy with them, you can't change them by being mad, being angry, being frustrated. You can only change them by changing your thought. Everyone is holding 2 bags of seeds all the time. Seeds of good things, sweet things, happy things, positive things, and a bag of seeds with disappointment, negativity, fearful things. You are the only one that can decide which bag you reach into and which seeds you'll plant. If you want sweet things, you have to plant from the bag of seeds that allows for sweet things. If you don't consciously choose to plant from the bag of sweet things, you will default to the bag of negative things just as a result of your surroundings and social consciousness. You must actively choose strawberries if you want strawberries. You cannot plant turnips and be disappointed and angry and frustrated because you don't get strawberries. To get strawberries, you have to think from the seed bag of strawberries. Stop being angry and stomping your feet when you end up with squash when what you want is strawberries. To get strawberries, you have to plant strawberries. To have sweet things happen, to have positive, powerful things happen, you have to consciously choose to pick from that bag and plant those seeds. And for heaven's sake, stop saying, I'm not thinking that. I'm not wanting that. Remember, if your results show a lack of money, you are thinking a lack of money. If your results are showing a lack of health, you are thinking a lack of health. If your results are showing faulty relationships, you are thinking and believing in faulty relationships. Stop arguing with your own results. The only way you can have results is to first have a thought that matches your result. There is no reason in the world for you to ever be unhappy with anything or anybody, since you are the determiner of every experience you're having and can, by changing your thought, change your experience. Moving on to the law of correspondence. As above, so below, as below, so above. We have been told time and time again that we are direct downloads of God, and in order to master this game, we must accept that and stop trying to convince ourselves and each other that we are weak and insufficient. Our essence is God's, and our minds and thoughts are as powerful microcosmically as God's are macrocosmically. Nature proves this time and time and time again. We know that stuffed inside of an acorn is a mighty oak tree. We know that all of the information in our DNA represents our whole physical, mental, and spiritual construct. It's all stuffed in our DNA. As above, so below. From the largest and mightiest to the smallest and tiniest, it is all the same. Take, for example, a drop of ocean water. Put it under a microscope and observe that each drop that makes up the whole is the same. From micro to macro, it's all the same. We are downloads of the divine. It is possible to really understand how the divine creates if we will observe how we create. The creative paradigm starts with a thought, moves out into the quantum field where it dresses itself and becomes the thing thought about, returns self-realized, returns complete. It is the same process in microcosm of the macrocosmic game. It leaves the mind of God, returns to the mind of God, fully clothed as God. No matter what we make up, no matter what we create, no matter how much or how big a mess we make, based on the law of correspondence, we cannot not be divine. Now, here is a law that we are all most familiar with. What goes around comes around. You reap what you sow. And most importantly, do unto others only that you would have others do unto you, because it will come back around. This is the law of consequences. And for every action, positively or negatively, there will be an equal and opposite reaction. Equal in intensity and opposite in direction. What goes out, like a boomerang, will come back. Those will be your consequences. Remember, you have the power to have what comes to you be favorable to you. When you're experiencing a consequence, know that you are not being victimized or punished. You are simply experiencing the working of the law. And you must inevitably learn to be happy and thankful for that, because that is the only way you can correct and ultimately grow an extraordinary life. Everything you give is multiplied and given back to you. Try this experiment. Take one apple, cut it into nice sized slices, and then pass it around your office, classroom, neighborhood, etc. My experience is that if you are sincerely giving and not giving to get, most of those people will return to you with a whole apple, pressed down, shaken together, and running over. That you'll find in Luke. And now let's spend a few minutes with the law of vibration. As we all know, everything is energy, and all energy has a specific vibratory frequency. And since light and dark have polar energies, high and low respectively, and thus cannot occupy the same space, you never have to worry about dark things happening to you if you vibrate in the frequency of light. In order to ensure a high vibration, you have to do things that make you happy. You have to do things that make you feel good. You spend time in the consciousness of love, praise, and gratitude. If you complain, if you judge, if you are negative in any way, you will throw yourself down into a low vibration frequency where a lot of negative things can happen to you. Negative things happen in dark, low vibratory energies. Powerful, positive, expanding things happen in high vibratory energies. You have the power to choose which vibration you will stand in. You cannot want good things to happen when you choose to stand in low vibratory spaces. You cannot. Now pay attention to yourself. Notice how differently you feel when smiling than frowning, when singing than complaining, when giving than taking, when being supportive instead of critical. Notice how you feel around positive people and around negative people. Since you are the determiner of the vibration of every space you occupy, make sure that everywhere you enter is vibrating higher when you leave. For example, don't complain about a space being dark, negative. Walk around and turn on the psychic light switches. Be the party starter. Get out in the middle of the floor and dance. You won't have to complain about the party being boring, and you will not be on the dance floor by yourself for long. Victims complain, victors create. Next, we have the twin sister, or brother, if you will, of vibration, the law of polarity. Everything in creation rests on a pole. One end of the pole vibrates rapidly. One end of the pole vibrates very slowly. Everything has an up and a down, a right and a left, a front and a back. Everything in creation rests on a pole. Now, like with vibration, if you want good things to happen, you've got to be on the side of the pole or the end of the pole that vibrates rapidly. If you are on the end of the pole or the side of the pole that vibrates slowly, you are subject, as you were with the dark of vibration, you are subject to loss and insufficiency. That, in ancient times, was considered hell. In ancient times, the high end of the pole was considered heaven. So you would want, if you wanted something, you would seek the kingdom, which was the high side of the pole, where something actually exists. One side of the pole is full, one side of the pole is empty. You can ensure your having by being on the side of the pole where having is possible. Remember, the high side of the pole vibrates very rapidly, creating light and energy. The low side of the pole vibrates very slowly and sluggishly. Things happen in sluggish, dark places that you do not necessarily want to experience if you're in your right mind. You can prevent that by where you're standing. Again, stand on the high end of the pole where things are vibrating in a very joyful, uplifting way. You are the determiner of your circumstances by your choice of where you are standing. The dimmer switch on your wall. You can turn your dimmer switch to full light, or you can turn it all the way off. That dimmer switch represents the polarity principle, where with resistance, things get darker and darker. As a matter of fact, the mechanism that allows for dimmer switches is called a resistor. It resists the light as it goes darker and darker and darker. You don't want to resist the light and be left with circumstances that are reflective of that. You just do not. If you're finding people or circumstances offensive, you are metaphorically facing the right end of the pole. The right end of the pole in Egyptian mysticism is the empty end of the pole. Don't complain. Turn your head and present the other cheek. In other words, see it as your Holy Spirit would have you see it, not as your ego would. The ego stands on the right, the Holy Spirit stands on the left. Put your left foot forward and turn toward the Holy Spirit, the high vibrating end of the pole. If you choose to have anything, you have to choose to seek where it is and turn away from where it is not. Remember, everything in creation rests on a pole. The pole is continuous from one end of the pole to the other end of the pole. It's all finances, health, relationship. Where are you standing? You'll know where you're standing by your results. On the pole of health, wellness exists on the high vibration end and sickness on the low vibration end. On the pole of finances, wealth exists on the high vibration end and poverty on the low. On the pole of substance, everything exists on the high vibration end and nothing on the low. From these examples, you can see that it is not necessary for you to busily manage your health or your money. What is important is that you manage your vibration. You are thrown to the high end of the pole in all situations when you maintain a high vibration. The law of rhythm is also related to vibration and polarity, in that everything swings rhythmically like a pendulum between both ends of the pole. Day follows night, down follows up, empty follows full. However, as the image and likeness of God, you are to maintain your awareness of oneness inside of the physical changes that occur. This is where it's important to be in it, but not of it. Or to maintain your awareness of the unity of all things, even as you play on this field of duality. We are in a field by necessity of duality. But can you maintain the unity of all being God on this field of constantly changing, pendulumed energy? If one doesn't stay properly aligned and maintain his spiritual identification, God, as everything, is always on the full side of the pole. Stay there. You will be tossed from pillar to post like a leaf in the wind. And if you start managing your vibration by properly utilizing your thoughts, you will notice a reduction in the radical swings that are probable without mastery. And in the words of Rudyard Kipling, if you can meet with triumph and disaster and treat those two impostors just the same, you'll be a man, my son. Learn to love it all. The day, the night, the hot, the cold, the up, the down, the front and the back, the black, the white, the Christian and the Jew. Learn to love it all. It swings. The very thing that you hate today will be the thing that you'll become tomorrow. Relax. Allow the rhythm of life to move between the two poles and stand on top of it. Be the master. Let creation move underneath your feet without you getting bogged down and swallowed up by the changes. In order for anything to be created, we must understand the necessity of this last and final principle, gender. In order to manifest or create, had to become two. Out of the mind of God, the first active principle was the womb. God spoke into the womb, the fiat, let there be light. And that thought, that fiat went into the womb of woman or the womb of the feminine, and out came the child, the son, the light. Gender. It takes two to tango. It takes two to create. The speaker and the quantum field. The speaker is masculine. The quantum field is the womb, is feminine. The seed goes into the soil, a tree grows. Your word goes into the quantum field, and the thing that you're speaking becomes manifest. This is the law of gender. You must have a seed, you must have a soil in order to create a tree. You must have a plug, you must have a socket in order to produce light. You must have spermatozoa, you must have an egg to create a child. The law of gender is mandatory. Our objective is to respect it, to honor it, to understand it. Both sides must be equal. Both sides must play an important role for creation of any kind to be manifest. This is something that we must understand and we must learn to appreciate. The positive, the negative. The positive is masculine, the negative is feminine. That does not mean that the feminine is bad. It means that it is a receptacle. It is a context for the content that is masculine. Context, content equals form. You cannot have one without the joining of the two. The masculine and feminine properties of gender have very little to do with male and femaleness. There are some similarities in the principles and the human expressions of those masculine and feminine properties. Gender, electric, magnetic. The masculine energy is electric. It projects. The feminine energy is magnetic. It attracts and holds. You must combine these two energies if anything is to be created. The electric energy of the sun and the magnetic energy of the moon produces a balance that allows our planet to function. Without these two energies, without these two principles, we would not be able to generate and sustain life. In ancient times, the sun was metaphorized as the masculine and the moon was metaphorized as the feminine. Mother, father, sustainer of their son, the earth, our home. And now let's recap the laws. Mentalism. We are the thinker. We are the creator of our life and our circumstances. Correspondence. As God thinks its reality into being, we think our reality into being. Consequences. How we think, how we behave, how we treat other people turns out to be what we get and how we're treated. There is no way around it. If you want to be treated well, you have to treat well. If you want to be given to, you have to give. Vibration. Everything vibrates. Good things happen, high vibration. Bad things happen, low vibration. Where do you choose to stand? Polarity. Sister, brother to vibration. One end of the pole maintains a high vibration. The other end of the pole, a low vibration. You can determine your experience by where you are standing on the pole of whatever it is that you're dealing with. Rhythm. It's all changing. It's all swinging as the pendulum swings from light to dark, from high to low, from left to right. As it swings by nature in creation, can you, as the image and likeness of God, stand on top of that pendulum swing and master your energy, master your thoughts, master your vibration by being above it, by being in it, but not of it? Gender. It takes two to create, a masculine and a feminine. Learn to appreciate, learn to respect, learn to honor your partnerships. Masculine and feminine, whether we're dealing with homosexuality or heterosexuality, it does not matter. There is a masculine and a feminine principle in every relationship. The masculine projects, the woman attracts. Together, life is created and maintained. Of all these governing principles, the most important is the one that provides context for all the others: mentalism. I say this because mentalism is driven by thought, and every single one of the other principles is impacted by how we think. God is mind, the great mind from which all else emerges. In the beginning was the Word, and the Word was with God. Nay, the Word was God, and is God. And we, humanity, are created in the image and likeness of God. As God thinks its realm into existence, we likewise think ours into existence. Everything we experience is a product of what we are thinking, consciously or subconsciously. Reminded by the principle of correspondence that we are created out of the same mind, with the same mind, and that there is nothing in creation that can be separate from the Creator. We accept that there is nothing in creation that is not an emanation of God. However, in all of creation, as we know it, humanity is the only species that can and ultimately must have the awareness and appreciation of that. You simply cannot be both an accident-prone victim and a powerful emanation of God at the same time. One cancels out the other. One of the most important things to remember about this game is that there are absolutely no victims and no accidents. People are constantly pointing to babies, the elderly, poor people, various ethnic groups, even women as victims. Little do they know that with the assignation of victim, they are holding these people and themselves separate from the truth. It is important to remember that all thoughts ultimately manifest into the thing about which you are thinking. If you experience victimization, accidents, ill fortune, it is not the universe doing it to you, but your thoughts, your choices, your actions, which are creating the results, the circumstances in your life. It is important to remember that all thoughts ultimately manifest into the thing about which you are thinking. So don't dwell on or worry about lack and limitation, or, in other words, what is missing in your story or with your individual circumstances. Link up and think about what is true of and for the divine, not for the self you made up. God is abundant, well, brilliant, and fulfilled, and as an emanation of that, so am I. In ancient Egypt, this whole process of the soul, the ascension of the human soul from Alpha to Omega, is beautifully depicted on the temple walls. From Abu Simbel at the very base of the spine to the Great Pyramid and Sphinx at the crown. This process is laid out beautifully with the 5 aspects of ourselves, playing all of the roles to demonstrate and metaphorize the process. The body, Nephthys. The ego, Set. The ascending human soul, the hero, Horus. The Christ or higher self, Osiris. And the Holy Spirit, Isis. The 5 aspects: sister, brother, couples, the Immaculate Concept. Everything is beautifully metaphorized and depicted on these walls. The walls are our textbook. We study the walls, apply the teachings from the walls, and we set about mastering the game of life. In Egyptian mysticism, the higher self is represented by Osiris, and the Holy Spirit is represented by Isis, the left side of the process. The body is represented by Nephthys, and the ego is symbolized by Set. The soul, the ascending soul, is represented by Horus. Horus, originally named Heru, is where we get our word hero. He's metaphorized as a falcon who flies high and sees great, great distances. The game, the circle of life from Alpha to Omega, is about our journey as Horus, the hero. The ascension of our souls is the purpose. Our self-realization is the purpose of the game. We left the mind of God as God. We will return to the mind of God as God. We go out in ignorance We return fully illuminated. Again, our textbook is the temple wall of Egypt, where this process is laid out. And as we stand in front of the walls, we open up to the truth about ourselves. Remember, life is a game. This one is a magnificent game. But as with any other game, there are rules that must be learned and must be utilized, must be applied. When thinking of application, be willing to be uncomfortably lawful. Maintain the law no matter how uncomfortable it may become. If you see it, you are being it. If you hear it, you are saying it. If it manifests in front of you, you are thinking it. No matter how ugly it may be, own it to transform it. You will win. You were created to win. You will master this game, this magnificent game of life.
One of my favorite sayings of yours, which is what you're touching on, is who you are is not up to you.
But certainly who you say you are is.
Okay, explain that.
It is really important that we understand all the way. I am an Egyptologist. I study and teach Egyptian mysticism. Egypt mysticism is the mother of all the religions, and there's so many ways you can research that to verify it. But it is the mother of all religions. And in Egyptian mysticism, we are taught that the great hidden energy or consciousness that we know of as God chose to experience its creation. And the only way that that could happen is if vehicles of experience could be created and actually see those beautiful sunsets and full moons and smell those beautiful flowers and hear those magnificent symphonies. In order for the nominal to experience the phenomenal, there had to be a middleman. And we are that middleman. We are that son of the great Creator Father. And the only thing that we know that the Father, that the Creator wanted to experience and express through us, but if we don't remember that, we can get busy thinking we're on our own with a purpose that we have to find. We don't have to find our purpose. We were created with and for a purpose, much like our creating an automobile. See, we created the automobile so that we could move from one place to another easily and comfortably. God created man, woman, so that the energy of the living God could move comfortably from one place to another. And so we were created as the image and likeness of God. If we can remember that, if we can say that, if we can know that, because that is indeed what happened. We were created as the image and likeness of God, as a stream of the divine. Now, if we start saying we're something else, if we start saying we are our names, our races, our religions, if we start saying that we have nothing if we don't find a purpose of our own, then we're going to be in trouble. That would be us making up who we are rather than connecting to who we were created to be. So who we were created to be and who God says we are is indeed who we are. When next we meet in this very intimate and comfortable way, We'll be looking forward to sharing with you the next aspect of this four-cornered process in mastering the game of life. Remember, learn the game, play the game, love the game, win the game. That's right. Play the game is next, and we'll be looking forward to sharing with you. Thanks for participating. We'll see you next time.
We at One and All would like to thank Dr. Caroline for this evening's profound experience. If you would like to delve further into her teachings or any of the powerful works offered by One and All, they are available for purchase at the online store at www.one-n-all.com. Good evening, and God bless each and every one of you.